What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's show, I want to get you guys my official preview video as the Atlanta Falcons are traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings in a Sunday night football matchup. The primetime Vikings are here, and I can't wait. But we will be diving into a Falcons deep dive, talk about what they did during Week 1. I will give credit to Michael Penix, played his tail off. So talk about him, talk about the Falcons' weapons. We do have some key injury news with the Vikings and the Falcons. And I'll give you guys my 5 keys to victory and my score prediction at the tail half of today's show. But if you guys want the Vikes to move the 2-0 on the season and pick up a big-time win on Sunday Night Football, go down there, hit that thumbs-up icon. On a preview video last week against the Chicago Bears, I asked I asked you guys to do the same. Hit that thumbs-up icon if you want the Vikes to beat the Bears. Got 692 likes. Let's see if we can top that on today's show. So if you want the Vikes to move to 2-0, hit that thumbs-up button. All right, let's talk about the Falcons' Week 1 performance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in NFC South showdown in Atlanta. Falcons missed a kick late, but still ended up losing 23-20 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, a massive storyline of this game will obviously be J.J. McCarthy versus Michael Penix. And Michael Penix played his tail off in Week 1. He completed 64.2% of his passes, threw for just under 300 yards, and then also had 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown. Also had a QB rating of 93.2. So Penix, obviously a big arm guy. He's a gunslinger. He wants to push the ball down the field. He can touch every blade of grass on the football field. He's also an older second-year guy, so he's a little ahead in the processing department. But Penix looked good during Week 1, and if you're starting to look at this QB class, the first 2 picks honestly look the worst. Like Caleb Williams, Drake May, they haven't really showed anything. But then the 4 guys after, obviously Jaden Daniels went ahead of Drake May, but Caleb, Drake haven't really shown too much just yet. But Jaden Daniels obviously is awesome. Bo Nix looked good last year, struggled during Week 1. And then Penix looks good during Week 1 of this season. Obviously, J.J. looked fantastic in the fourth quarter. So Penix looks good. We did not get Michael Penix last year. We got Kirk Cousins when he made his return to U.S. Bank Stadium, and Kirk obviously struggled during that game. But why did Penix also look good? It's because you got this guy, Bijan Robinson. Now, Bijan, a wild stat line for him during Week 1. Only had 24 rushing yards, averaged 2 yards per carry, so I will give credit to the Buccaneers' run defense. That is unbelievable stuff, but he did have a 50-yard receiving touchdown. He actually had just on the dot 100 yards through the air, and there's no doubt about it. Like, on the scouting report this week for the Vikings, Bijan Robinson is the most talented player on the Falcons. He is probably one of the most talented running backs we have in the NFL. Like, obviously you got Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs. Probably go Bijan Robinson, Josh Jacobs at that 4-5 spot, but this guy is an unbelievable talent. He is so hard to tackle in the open field. So Vikings did struggle a little bit tackling against the Chicago Bears. That can't happen against Bijan Robinson. He's a different beast compared to DeAndre Swift, and this guy is a problem if you let him get in space. So you're going to have to sell it on the run and potentially let Michael Penix beat you. But they also got another weapon on the outside, Drake London. They didn't light it up during Week 1, but he is still a hell of a player. Big body wide receiver. He's a great 50-50 catch guy, and he had 8 receptions, 55 yards, only went for 6.9 yards per catch. But this guy is still a problem, man. When you talk about the Atlanta Falcons, what does make them dangerous is just the amount of weapons they have. Tyler Algier did not run too well, very similar to Bijan Robinson in Week 1. But those 3 pass-catching options, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, they were without Darnell Mooney in Week 1 as well, but he's potentially going to make a return. So them, when they're throwing that football, they are a problem. And, I will say this, the Falcons, they really struggled to run the ball during Week 1. I can't see that being a trend throughout the season. They do have a pretty damn good offensive line, even though the right tackle is out for the year. But I can't see them replicating 2.5 yards per carry. So it would be very, very impressive if Flores can replicate these numbers the Falcons had against the Vikings defense. But I think for the Falcons to beat the Vikings, it's going to take a master class from Michael Penix for them to go in the U.S. Bank Stadium and get a win, because I can't see them going into our own home building and running the football consistently. I think if the Falcons beat the Vikings, it is because Penix, he hangs 30 on the Vikings defense, and he probably throws for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns. And If you simulate this game 100 times, how many times does that happen? Maybe only a handful, but it's going to take a masterclass from him to get a win. And also, like, the defense in Atlanta, not too good. They tried to add some talent to that edge group during the draft, drafting two edges in the first round, traded back up for another guy. But they allowed 23 points. I guess they only gave up 260 yards, but kind of got beat on third down situations. They also gave up over 100 yards on the ground, giving up 4.4 yards per carry. So I could see the Vikings having a massive game on the ground, and I could see this offense really humming. You're back at home, easier environment, easier defense you're going up against, in my opinion. So, again, I think it's going to take a Penix masterclass for the Vikings to lose this one. But I'll ask you guys this before I give you guys my score prediction. Predict the score for me down below in the comment section for the Vikings-Falcons Sunday Night Football matchup. How are you guys feeling? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Now, coming up next year on the program, we're going to be giving you guys my 5 keys to victory and then also some injury news for both ball clubs here heading into this game, week 2 of the season. But before we do so, I do have to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Factor Meals. Now, eat smart at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. Now, here covering the Minnesota Vikings, I live a pretty busy lifestyle, and sometimes I don't always have time to make home-cooked meals every single day, but that's where Factors came in, and it's completely changed my life. Factor helps me eat smarter with tasty, chef-prepared meals that are dietitian-approved and delivered right to my door. And now with more than 65 weekly meals made for how I live and what I like to eat, I've got even more ways to fit in a real meal wherever the day takes me. And why I love Factor, they got more variety and more meals. Choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp, at no extra cost. You guys can also support your wellness goals, enjoy even more GLP-1 friendly meals, and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good for you fats. So eat smart at factormeals.com/VikingsChat50 off and use code VikingsChat50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's code VikingsChat50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Again, the offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchases, but that link is in the comment section and description of today's show. All right, let's dive into it. Some injury news here first, and then we'll dive into the keys to victory here in just a second. But the biggest injury news here with the Falcons is nothing new. They were without this guy during week 1 of the season. It's Cale McGarry, one of the better right tackles in the National Football League. He signed a 2-year, $30 million deal this offseason, so they'll be without him for this matchup, and that leaves a massive hole on the right side of the offensive line for this Falcons group here. It's going to be Elijah Wilkinson filling in for McGarry at right tackle. They do have a pretty solid guard combination. I do like Jake Matthews at left tackle, but this offensive line is gettable. We saw the Vikings have some success against the Bears offensive line. They actually generated 30 pressures in that game. They also shut down the run at a high level, and, they were only credited with 2 sacks in that game, but they were getting home. Caleb was just making plays. Even though I think Caleb didn't play his best football, obviously, on Monday night, he was making Vikings defenders miss, but Michael Penix, not as mobile as Caleb Williams. If you're able to get home, hopefully more of those pressures end up turning to sacks. Now, one key injury that we should follow throughout this entire week is Darnell Mooney. He is day-to-day with a shoulder injury. He missed week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's just a great deep threat option. And he's a perfect, he's just a perfect fit with Michael Penix. Penix wants to push the ball downfield. Mooney is a great deep threat. And you got Drake London, Bijan, Pitts getting a lot of the attention. So he is their deep shot, go-get-it guy. So he's going to be a key injury to follow this week. But for the Vikings, it's going to be Blake Cashman. He left week 1 with a hamstring injury. No injury report just yet at the time we're filming this. I would be stunned if he plays in week 2. But even if he can't, obviously Hurts, where's the green dot? The best communicator at the linebacker position for this ball club. But you had Eric Wilson step up. Eric Wilson played some good football, not only on special teams, which he was fantastic. When he had to fill in for Blake Cashman, he played some great football. So even if Cashman can't go, not the end of the world, but hopefully he takes his time with the hamstring injury because those things can either linger for 4 to 5 weeks or he could be back in a couple of weeks. Just take your time. Wait till you're 100%. Maybe we get him back potentially week 4 or maybe week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals and that high-flying offense coming to the bank as well. But this guy should be back. And we talked about the offensive line. Everybody was fantastic outside of Justin School. If you get Darisaw back, that franchise left tackle, it's going to be awesome. Like, I can't wait to see the Vikings full, 11-man offense with Darisaw there, with Addison there. So I'm expecting him to be out there as he's still rehabbing from that torn ACL, MCL. But I'm sure he saw J.J. McCarthy in that fourth quarter, and number 71 is fired up to get back out there and protect his blind side. But Harrison Smith, I'm just going to put this as I have no idea what's going on. He did miss week 1 with an illness, and he didn't even travel with the team. He's barely practiced over the last couple of weeks. So I'm just hoping he's all right. If he can't go, not the end of the world, but obviously this Vikings defense is better with him in the lineup. So get well soon, Harry. We're all rooting for you. But that's the latest injury news with both ball clubs. Now, if you guys are subscribed here, the Vikings Now by Chat Sports, just give me a skull down below in the comment section. Going to give you guys some shout-outs on a future show. I want to show some love to the subscribers. So if you guys are subbed to the channel, type skull down below. Now, key to victory number 1 for me. I'm going to go dominate the trenches, and that's on both sides of the ball. Now, the Falcons' defensive line is not as good as the Chicago Bears, in my opinion, and the Vikings should be able to run the ball at a high level. Tampa Bay was able to run the ball all over Atlanta. I think the Vikings should be able to replicate that at a pretty high level. Get the ball to Jordan Mason, set up those play-action shots with J.J., and if you want to make his life easier, you get that run game going. But then also on the defensive side, you got to wreak havoc. Like, this should be a 5-sack game for the Vikings defense. There's really no excuse for it because the combination of the defensive line, Brian Flores, you're going to have the home crowd also on your side now, and that's also such an advantage for this football team. When you have the U.S. Bank Stadium noise and you're lining 7-8 guys up on the line of scrimmage and Penix is trying to communicate, the offensive linemen are trying to communicate, it just makes it so much more challenging. So dominate the trenches, number 1 for me. And then number 2, let's build off McCarthy's fourth quarter. Because obviously the first 3 quarters weren't good whatsoever. Like, we thought this guy, potentially the Vikings are going to be looking for a new quarterback by Halloween. But this guy lit it up in the fourth quarter, had one of the best performances we have ever seen from a rookie quarterback in his debut in the fourth quarter. So build off what he was doing. He got some confidence when he was throwing to Justin Jefferson. He was throwing seeds over the middle of the field, and he just kind of had that swagger and that moxie and that alphaness that, was a big reason why the Vikings drafted him, because the team started rallying around him. But build off what he got going in that fourth quarter. I think the first 3 quarters of that game in Chicago will be the worst 3-quarter stretch we will see from McCarthy the entire season. Will he still have a couple what the hell are you doing throws? Will he still maybe have another pick 6? Absolutely. But I just think consistently throughout all 4 quarters, at least coming up for the Sunday Night Football game, he will look a whole lot better. And also how about we get the 2 best pass-catching options out there right now going? Let's get Justin Jefferson the ball more. I understand, the game plan was very conservative, and, they weren't trying to force too much to 18, but, hey, him only having 44 yards and a touchdown, I'm sure he's not too happy about that. I'm sure he's thrilled about the win, but he wants to go out there and dominate the game. The Falcons don't have a corner that can guard him. He gave Atlanta over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. I'm sure he's trying to replicate that. And also TJ Hawkinson. Can we get a regular season touchdown for TJ? It's been way too long. So get those 2 going, number 3 for me. And number 4, let Michael Penix beat you. And I mean this, no slight to Michael Penix. I think he is going to be a damn good quarterback in the NFL. But I want the Vikings to sell out on the run. Take away Bijan Robinson. That also keeps the crowd going into it because a lot of 3rd and long situations, if you are able to take away the run. And if we look up at the end of the game and the Vikings, let's just say, lose 34-21 and Penix has 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, let that be the case. But don't let it be Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, that offensive line is starting to mow you. Let Penix beat you. And then finally here, protect the bank. You got one of the best home field advantages in the National Football League. That crowd noise is me going defensively. We should see a smoother operation offensively since you aren't, facing that crowd noise. That was Soldier Field this past Monday night. So let the bank kind of propel you to a victory. Let that energy get going. I'm sure that place is going to be absolutely rocking coming off that Monday Night Football win. That's why I got the Vikings winning big in this one. I think this is going to be a statement game to the NFL. I think week 1 was kind of the, oh, J.J. McCarthy's a guy game. And now I think this week 2 game on a primetime stage would be like, oh, no, the Vikings are the real deal. Like, yeah, they won 14 games. They upgraded the roster, and they might have upgraded at quarterback. So I got the Vikes winning 34-16. I think that defense is going to have a hell of a performance, and I think the offense overall is just going to be a smoother operation for all 4 quarters. So I'm going 34-16. That's my score prediction heading into this week 2 matchup against the Falcons. Now, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, just hit me with a skull down below in the comment section. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. It's going to be a fun week. Vikings, home opener. Can't wait. If you watch this entire thing, give me a skull down below. And also hit me up on Twitter if you haven't already, at Pat Sieps, the Twitter handle. Appreciate all of you guys for tuning in today. We'll see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.